Well, hello again. This is the pastor, and I'm welcoming you back again today into my studio. And we're going to have another art lesson today. In our first lesson, we talked about creating a color wheel. You may remember that. If you didn't get that lesson, you can log on and check it out, and you'll begin to understand a little bit about where colors come from and how to make them, how to mix them. But today I want to talk about something else. Today I want to talk about tone. So there's two things about what we use to make paintings. And when we use colors, as in the color wheel, when we speak about a color, we're talking about a tint. So these colors are made from different products that give them the tint or the hue that they have. And they range on the color wheel of the spectrum of the rainbow, or the light spectrum, from the dark, cool colors, purple and blue, violet, all the way to the warm colors, red and orange and yellow, and then the in-between colors like green and so forth and so on. But today I want to talk about tone, and we're going to do a little project here to understand how tone works, because tone has a lot to do with the contrast or the intensity or the value of the image that you're trying to create. And tone will help us a lot when it comes to the areas of drawing. So, and I can't underscore enough the significance and the importance of drawing. And kids, if you're drawing, you're on the way to becoming an artist. And if you draw a lot, if you like to really enjoy drawing, I would just encourage you to continue to draw what you imagine, draw what you see, and the more you draw, the better you will get. Just to show you a little bit about drawing, if you like to draw, you may have gotten yourself a sketchbook. This is a very nice one. You can get a drawing pad as well. It doesn't cost a lot. But I've been drawing ever since I was a little boy. I hate to tell you this, but when I was probably 8, 9, 10 years of age, when we went to church, and the services were long, we had to go to church Sunday morning, and then we came back for Sunday evening service, and then there was the midweek service. And we would have to sit through the services, and they could be quite long. And so, you know how kids get, you get antsy, you get bored. And I would draw. I used to go to the bathroom, and I would get the paper towels out of the towel rack, and I would bring them back, and I would put them out on a songbook for, a hard surface. I'd lay them on a songbook, and I had a pen or pencil, and I would be sketching and drawing. And since I loved pirates as a little boy, I used to draw pirate ships and sailing ships, and cannonballs that be flying and ships would be sinking, and I'd do that. Now, I'm not saying you should draw while you're in church. It's important that you listen to the sermons and that you sing and worship. Those are the things that you should do when you go to church. I just say what I did, and I did that until I got the Holy Ghost. I got the Holy Ghost when I was 11, and so after I got the Holy Ghost, I was really much more interested in what was going on in the service. So this is a sketchbook, a very nice sketchbook here, and I call this my Special Places sketchbook. And here's my cover drawing on the sketchbook there. A picture of me from a photograph in a tank turret in Israel. And that gives you some idea of contrast. Here's another one here, and you will see that there's a very dark aspect to that in the life studies. And you can see where I've used really dark, heavy strokes and where I use lighter strokes. When we do that, what we are doing is we're using something called tone. And we want to begin to understand and appreciate the use of tone. Here's another picture here in the sketchbook where you can see the difference there in the lights and then in the darks of the pencil marks. So the really heavy dark, that's a heavier tone, and the lighter marks are a lighter tone. So we want to talk about tone today. We want to try to understand tone. Now, maybe you just had one pencil, A lot of you may just have a pencil that you use for your schoolwork. There are some very nice pencil kits that you can get. I like to keep my drawing stuff in boxes. I got boxes like this where I keep things that I draw with, pencil collections that I have. These pencils are all different, every one of them. It goes from a light tone all the way up to a dark tone. Here's another nice drawing set here. And this drawing set comes with a sketchbook, and it comes with pencils in various tones, and then also charcoal pencils, which are really heavy, dark tones. I'm bringing that in close, and you can see that's a very nice drawing kit. You can find these at AC Moore or Hobby Lobby or Michael's. You can find these for like about $5 for a very nice drawing set. Another thing you can do, this is a pencil box, as you can see here. I got it at AC Moore, I think. And it contains a set of drawing pencils. There are 6 pencils in here, and they are all different. And there's a scale inside the box. There's a scale. I'll bring it real close. Hopefully you can see it. You can see very much what we're going to be working with today, tones from light to dark. And what that scale tells us about pencils is that the different pencils have a different tone value. So if your pencil has an H on it, it's a hard lead. And hard leads are usually lighter in tone than a soft lead. So we could start, and the higher you go in the H category, the lighter is the tone. So an H pencil is kind of like a mid-tone on the hard side, and then a 2H, a 2H is a little darker, 3H is darker, 4H is darker, 5H is darker, 6. They're lighter. The higher you go, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 being the lightest, is a very light tone. So if you want to do just really fine lines that don't really show up very strongly, you're going to go for a hard pencil. And the harder it gets, the bigger the number is on the H, the lighter will be the tone. Now, when you get to the B's, you'll say your pencil may have a B on it. It could be a B, a 2B, a 3B, a 4B, all the way up to an 8B. So once again, the bigger the number is on the B, the darker will be the tone. You might have a pencil that has an F on it. So an F is kind of like just, it's a little bit darker than the darkest hard pencil, but it's a very common tone. It's a transitional tone between the hard pencils and the B pencils, the really dark pencils. Anyway, if you have a pencil set or kit and you look and you can see each pencil does a different job. So just like the drawings that I showed you, where there's really dark, heavy pencil marks, I used a darker pencil. Now, if you don't have a pencil set and you've only got one pencil, you might try to compensate by bearing down harder on your drawing with your pencil and trying to make it darker. But you're going to be limited. You won't really have the range that you would have if you have a nice pencil set. So for a few dollars, get yourself a nice pencil set and start having some fun with some drawing. All right, so for this exercise, we are going to work with tone, and we're going to create a tone scale, and we're going to need 2 colors. Once again, today, I'm using acrylic paint. I have a white tube and a dark tube. But before I get started, let me remind you again what we need to do always during this time of crisis. We need to be sure that we're washing our hands and we're cleaning good, careful not to touch our faces, and make sure that we wash our hands a lot and try to practice social distancing, which means to try to keep 6 feet away from other people that you don't live with or that you don't know. So if we're all under one roof in one house and we're all well and healthy, we're all doing good. If you're fighting and arguing a lot, your mom may send you to your room. Now, that's another form of social distancing, which I'm not really talking about today. But anyway, so we get ready to start. Before I do, I'm going to put a little white paint here on my palette. I'm using a paper palette. That's okay. You can use anything for a palette. Something that you want to throw away afterwards would be fine. Or if you already have your own palette, that's fine too. So what I've done is I've created myself a dot of white paint and a dot of dark paint on my palette. And that's what I'm going to use. Now, I want to create a tone scale. So I'm going to take a piece of drawing paper from my tablet. All right. And I'm going to take a ruler. And I'm going to take a pencil. All right. Doesn't really matter what hardness you use for your pencil. That's fine. So I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to lay it on my paper. And so this is an 8.5 by 11 sheet. So I can't use the whole length of the 12-inch ruler. I'm just going to use 10 inches. We're going to make 10 boxes. So I'm going to lay my ruler on the paper like this, center it on the paper between the 1 and the 10, and then I'm going to mark where the 10 goes on the top and the bottom of the 10, and then I want to draw a line all the way around the ruler. All the way around the ruler. Like that. And make sure you get the bottom. All right. So now what I want to do is I want to make 10 boxes. And how I'm going to do that, I'm going to use my inch mark. So at the 1 inch mark, I'll put a mark at the top and the bottom of the 1 inch. And the 2 inch, and the 3 inch, and so forth, all the way down the line. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And I've already got my 10 marked. So I have my marks. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to draw boxes on those marks. I'm going to make 10 boxes. Now I just want to say, if you don't understand the importance of creating color wheels and working with values, tones are values, you'll understand as we develop further art lessons and we talk about actually drawing and painting, we'll begin to understand how these lessons become valuable to you and how you can use them. All right, so what I've done here, and I'll bring my paper up close so you can see, is I've created a series of boxes on my paper. Now we're going to fill those in, and this will be an exercise in using tone. Now let me get my brush, my handy paintbrush. All right, so get a little water on the brush. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create the most extreme values on either end of my tone chart. So the first value is the lightest one, and that is white. I take only white paint and I paint in the very first box with my white paint. Okay, that's good. All right, I want to make sure I clean my brush very good, because I don't want any white in my, I'm not ready to put white in black yet. Now, at the other end of your tone scale, you're going to use only black. Only black. And you paint that in. Oh, need a little more water. All right. Get that painted in nicely there. All right. All right, I'll bring this up closer to you where you can see it. Now you probably will not be able to see the white but you will certainly see the black. And what this represents is the range of my tone values. I have the very, very lightest over here, which is the white. It doesn't get any lighter than that. And I have the very, very darkest over here, which is straight up black. It doesn't get any darker than that. That's the range of my values. So what we are going to do now is we're going to create a tone scale. So we're going to fill in each one of these boxes, and we're going to make each one of them. We'll start on the white end, and we're going to make gray, but we don't want to make just an average gray or medium gray. We want to make a very, very light gray. And so we're going to need a lot of white. We're going to need a lot of white and just a speck of black, just a little touch of black, just a little touch of black. All right, and that makes a very light gray. All right, and I'll paint that in here, and I'll show you something of what it looks like. Let me clean my brush good. All right. Now, so I've gone from white to gray, very light gray. All right, now to try to help me create the nice balance that I need, I'm going to now start at the other end. I want to take the very darkest end, which is my black, and we're going to do the same idea, only we're going to kind of reverse it. We're going to use a lot of black and just a little touch of white, because we want this to be dark, but not as dark as our original color. So just a little touch of white into the black. And I'll paint that in. I'll get a little bit more white there. All right. All right. All right. So here I've gotten 4 of my tones in so far. So you can see I've gone from light white, which is no black at all, to just a little bit of black, making a light gray. Now I've gone from black, to just a tiny bit of white. And so that is a very dark gray. It's almost black, but it isn't quite. All right. So let's go back to our light side again. Our light side, we're going to take some white and put it next to where you made your gray, so you can take a look. Now we're going to add black, and we want it to be a little darker than the first gray that we painted, just a little bit darker. All right. Clean our brush. Now we're going to do the same thing on the other end using black. Now I'm going to put that black next to my first mix, and I'm going to add some white, but I want to add maybe a little bit more white than I did to the first batch, because I want it to be a little lighter than the first batch. Good. That's good. That's looking good. All right. Good. Maybe just a touch more black to that, I think. Just a little bit darker. And if you think you don't have it quite right, you could always add some more black or some more white until you get it about right. Now that's about right there. That's about right. All right. So I've got 6 tones, and I've got 4 more to go. So I'm creating a sliding scale of tones, as you see there. All right, let's work at it again. We're going to go back to the light side, to the white. Now I'm going to take white, put it next to our last mix, and now we're going to take some black, and this time it has to be blacker than the previous mix. Has to be blacker. Has to be darker. Okay, that looks pretty good. All right. All right. Good. Clean my brush. And now I'm going to go to the black side, the dark side. I'm using black again. And I'm going to add some white. So I don't want too much white because here's where it starts to get tricky because we're getting close to the same values as before. I'll just put a little test spot there. Now it's not quite light enough. I need a little more white. All right, that might work right there. That works perfectly. All right. All right. All right. While you're drawing and painting and working so hard, you know, we got so much time on our hands and we can't go out. And we're having fun learning to do some new stuff. But if you're enjoying our art lessons, be sure to email me or write me, or have your mom email me or write me and let me know how it's going for you. I'd love to be able to see some of your work someday. Maybe your mom could take a picture of it and text it to me or email it to me. All right, so we're going, all right. So actually, what I have here is I have gotten my tones to be really, really, really close to each other. So I won't even need, at this point, I won't even need the two middle squares because my scale has come together pretty well in the middle. I'm just going to cut the middle out and bring this together and show you kind of the idea that we're going for here. Just fold my paper down. You may find 10 spaces is maybe too much to really make it work for you, but you will get the idea. The idea is what's important, that you understand the idea of what we're trying to do here. All right, so I think I have got that. All right, so what I'm going to do here, I'm just going to touch this up just a little bit so you'll have an idea what we're talking about. So I think I just about got it the way I want it. All right. So let me bring this over and show you that your project would look something similar to this. It doesn't have to be perfect. Remember, it's all trial and error. So let me do it this way. So remember, we started over here on the white, and we started over here on the black. And so what we are trying to do here is to create a sliding scale of tone values from the very lightest to the very darkest. Now, this is going to be important when we draw. So we want to shade things in. So you might want to start drawing with a light tone. Just a simple little sketch with a light tone. And when you get the line exactly where you want it, you may want to come along and darken the line. You'll use another darker pencil and draw over that and darken it. Or if you want to shade some things in or color some things in, you can do that. You understand how you need to go from light to dark and from dark to light. Now, the idea of working with tone is important, not just to drawing, but it's very important to painting too. And in a future lesson, we worked on creating a simple color wheel with the primary colors red, yellow, and blue, and the secondary colors orange, lavender, and green, which are made from mixing. You mix yellow and blue, you get green. You mix blue and red, you get lavender or purple. You mix red and yellow, you get orange. Those are your secondary colors. And I talked about that in the art lesson, how that the color opposite from the color on the color wheel, if you have red, your opposite color would be green, and that's called its complement. So the complementary color for red is green, and the complementary color for green is red. So when you're doing a painting, you quite often want to work with colors that complement each other because it is a very pleasing aspect at the end of it. But these are tints, and these are tones, tints and tones. Now, when we're painting, we will often want to tint a tone or tone a tint. And so in our next lesson, I think we're going to talk about what happens when we mix some of these other colors, like what happens if we mix red and purple? Will we create another purple color? Purple and blue will create another tint or another color. But as we mix these colors out, we're moving more into the area of tones, colors with tones in it. So, for instance, just use your imagination. If I were to mix blue and purple, what would I have for a color? I would have a color that was blue-purple. It would be blue-purple. So we could say that that's either a darker blue or a darker purple. So when we get into that area, we're actually talking about tone and how tone works and how tone plays in. So I hope you enjoyed this lesson on tone. When we come back, we want to talk about maybe creating a few more colors on our color wheel and exploring the idea of how we can use tones in helping us to create different values or hues in our tints. Tones can help us create different values in our tints. We have values like yellow, for instance, is a very light value. Blue is a very dark value. Red is an in-between value. So we're going to talk about that and how we can do that. And then we'll do some drawing. We'll have a drawing lesson. And we're going to eventually work up to a painting lesson. And we'll set up a painting. And I will paint and show you basically how I do it and give you an idea so that you can, work and do things the way you like. So I hope you enjoyed this lesson, art lesson number 2 on creating a tone chart. Thank you for watching. God bless you. Be safe.